Hello, Milwaukee Bucks fans. Welcome back to Bucks Latest, presented by fanarch.com. I'm your host, Dean Simon. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please consider liking, subscribing, turning on post notifications to stay up to date with all the latest Milwaukee Bucks updates. Okay, we're going to get right into things because we are being bombarded with good Giannis news. Oh my god, excuse me. Good Giannis news in recent days, recent weeks, as NJ Advanced Media's Adam Zagoria was told by an anonymous NBA executive that Giannis isn't going anywhere this summer and that the Bucks feel that they can still win with him. And while that second statement seems obvious because, as long as you bring Giannis back and you have him on your roster, you definitely feel like you can win a title. This was the main thing, of course, this offseason, was getting Giannis back in a Milwaukee Bucks jersey heading into 2025-26. And now that it seems like the main thing has been completed, that Giannis likely will return as a Milwaukee Buck, because he's recently said that he wants to return to the NBA Finals with the Bucks coming up in the near future. Getting Giannis back was the main thing, and now that it's completed, a little bit less main thing, like the still extremely hard thing, will actually be fielding the right talent and putting the right pieces around Giannis, making the necessary financial decisions to surround Giannis with a team that's good enough to contend for a title. And that's the even, further away idea, harder to believe thing, that the Bucks can somehow maneuver their way out of the situation where they have Damian Lillard's contract to worry about, several guys, key guys that could leave in free agency, that could be pursued heavily by other teams, other contending teams. Building the contending team around Giannis will be the extremely hard thing, but at least the fact that you got a top 3 to top 5 talent back in the league, because you need a top 3 to top 5 talent to actually contend for a title in today's league, that was the hard part. And now there's a lot of pressure, a lot of weight lifted off of the shoulders of of the Bucks front office, and now we're gonna have to see what kind of decisions they make in the future with regard to free agency, the draft, trades, the whole 9 yards. Just everything about this offseason is absolutely monumental for the Milwaukee Bucks, and Giannis coming back is just the start of things to come. And speaking of, with regard to free agency, we got some good news about one of those pieces that helped the Bucks win the 2021 NBA title, and that's Bobby Portis, who, as NBA insider Jake Weinbach reported on X, that Bobby Portis, who has a $13.4 million player option coming up, is expected to return to the Bucks for his 11th NBA season. There's common belief that Portis, a fan favorite in the city, will either opt into his current deal or sign a new long-term extension to remain in Milwaukee. Again, just being absolutely bombarded with good news, because Bobby Portis, if anything, he has proven that he is one of the most consistent, one of the most reliable bench scorers in the entire association. Because I believe he's placed second in Sixth Man of the Year voting 2 of the last 3 years, I think in back-to-back years. And just overall, again, he's proven to be just a incredibly reliable option at putting the ball in the basket off of the bench. One of the best bench scorers in the NBA from an efficiency standpoint, from a versatility standpoint. Bobby Portis is that guy, and is a guy that a championship contender needs coming off the bench, and a guy who's just able to fill it up at any point. That's exactly the kind of guy that a team like Milwaukee will need going forward, especially now that Giannis will likely be making his return. Keeping Bobby Portis around, and I'm not necessarily opposed to Bobby Portis signing a long-term extension, getting a new kind of deal hammered out, because even though he may be getting a little bit older, I don't think his skill set, just anything about him, his agility, whatever, nothing is seemingly going away. He's not declining in any stretch of the imagination moving forward. So being able to get Bobby Portis back in a Bucks uniform again to join Giannis, this is another huge wrinkle in the offseason, but again, more to come with the draft and free agency. And sticking on free agency, it looks as though the Milwaukee Bucks will probably be aiming to bring back several important pieces from this past season, even though, of course, it didn't end up in a title contention or anything close to it. But several important pieces from this past year were guys like Kevin Porter Jr. and Gary Trent Jr., who Gary Trent Jr., according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel's beat writer Jim Ozarski, he recently said that Gary Trent Jr. specifically could get $8 to $10 million annually this summer, which it's not hard to believe it's not far out of like the stretch of the imagination that a guy who performed the way he did both in the regular season and in his short postseason stint with the Bucks could end up getting big money. $8 to $10 million, big money for his role as a spot up catch and shoot guy. But he's proven to be one of the best in the NBA in recent years at knocking down wide open looks from three. And Gary Trent Jr., believably so, could earn $8 to $10 million annually. Because of him scoring 70 combined points in games, I believe 3 and 5 of the first round series against the Pacers, missing his first 8 or 9 threes in game 5 and then knocking down his next 8 in a row, keeping the Bucks season alive single-handedly. It's very possible that Gary Trent Jr. could be pursued heavily by teams like the Lakers who need that extra floor spacing guy, just other contending teams. Gary Trent Jr. will be a little bit harder of a player to bring back than some others that could be on their way out from Milwaukee, but it's hard to believe that they'll let him go easily. Maybe they'll approach him, try to get him back on a more lucrative deal that could work out in the long term better for him, but Gary Trent Jr. might be looking to cash in on his huge payday that he did earn throughout the regular season, throughout the playoffs. And also that Kevin Porter Jr., he is also likely to return to the Bucks, as Matt Moore from Action Network highlighted that he is likely to be retained. And, this is great news, especially, again, with Damian Lillard on the shelf likely for next season going into the future. Maybe he'll miss the entirety of the 2025-26 season. You need a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. to just man the offense, to act as a playmaking hub of some sort. He's also a very capable on-ball scoring threat. So bringing back a guy like Porter Jr., who really shined in the postseason a little bit in terms of from a passing perspective, as a decently high assist but low turnover guy, pretty efficient. He definitely showed some things for the Bucks in the playoffs, and he might have earned his spot as the Bucks starting point guard next year with Damian Lillard out. And as we covered in the previous episode, the Bucks could also be looking at bringing in a guy like Markelle Fultz to take on some of that point guard responsibility, or maybe a combo guard responsibility due to his defense. He could definitely be someone that could pair very well with Kevin Porter Jr. in the backcourt, just as a nice defensive option to stand by, I guess, the little bit more defensively inept Porter Jr. But, all good things going forward. Of course, outside of Damian Lillard's injury, you would rather a NBA 75th anniversary team guy like Damian Lillard to remain on the court. But Kevin Porter Jr., he has some potential for a big role heading into next season. And finally, with the Bucks now likely to bring back Giannis for his 13th season with the Milwaukee Bucks in 2025-26, as we said in the first segment, building the actual title contender around the Greek Freak remains a tall task for the Bucks front office. But CBS Sports' Sam Quinn, he also detailed this, and he suggested that the Bucks are going to plan some sort of gap year, and I quote from Sam Quinn, they'll try to retool this roster, but how much can you really do in a year without the ability to tank in the short term, the ability to trade picks in the long term, and the cap flexibility to fit in new, pricey players? 1 year from today, assuming the Bucks still have Antetokounmpo, they will still be operating at a significant asset deficit. They will probably still be paying superstar money for a compromised version of Lillard, even in a very forgiving Eastern Conference. This is not a one-year fix. And totally agree with everything Sam Quinn is saying here, because especially towards the latter end of that statement, where he's talking about a very forgiving Eastern Conference, especially forgiving going into next year because of Jason Tatum's Achilles injury and how he will maybe miss the entirety of the season for the Boston Celtics. So the 2024 NBA champion, my pick from 2024, I immediately picked them to repeat as 2025 champions. Obviously that didn't come to fruition, but with Tatum likely missing the whole year, or maybe coming back a little early because of his earlier scheduled surgery, the Celtics will likely be taken out of the running as championship contenders. And with the Cavs not really proving much this past or this current offseason against the Pacers, the East is undeniably wide open, because an Eastern Conference where the Indiana Pacers are looked at as undeniably the best team in the conference, or the team to beat, that's an open conference. That's, I don't want to say a weak conference, but it's one where the Milwaukee Bucks could potentially gun for a title. And if Damian Lillard were healthy, that opportunity would have been there, but now it's not. And it feels like while other developments could take place, they could land some interesting guys. They could make the necessary adjustments in terms of key role players, guys that fit around Giannis for a further title run. It feels like the 2025-26 season will be a wasted year, where Giannis couldn't compete for a title, even though the Eastern Conference's lack of a real titan, it afforded him the ability to maybe compete, but with Damian Lillard out, it's just not to be. And especially with a guy like Brook Lopez possibly leaving in free agency, like a guy like Gary Trent possibly out the door, Taurean Prince, it looks bleak for next season. But faith has kind of been restored for 2026-27 in this area. But these are all things that will remain to be seen as the Bucks front office will continue to make moves, make big decisions with regard to free agency and the draft and offseason trades. But anyways, that'll be it for me today. Thank you very much for watching Bucks Latest, presented by fanarch.com. And I have been Dean Simon. Please consider liking, subscribing, turning on those post notifications to stay up to date with all the latest updates and to watch all the latest videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Go Bucks.